And we're live.
Perfect.
Susan,
So,
please take it away.
hi everyone, and a warm welcome to today's SAP Community Call. My name is Susan, and I'm part of the SAP HANA product management team, and I will be your host today. And I'm really excited about the topic of today's call. So we will first get an introduction to machine learning in SAP HANA Cloud, and afterwards we will finally kick off our SAP HANA Cloud Machine Learning Challenge. So thanks already for joining here and your big interest in the challenge. So let me introduce the most important people today. We're having in the back end with me, Sarah Detzler, who is competence lead for data science and machine learning at SAP, Andreas Forster, our machine learning expert in SAP's Global Center of Excellence, Yannick Sharper, customer advisor for machine learning, and my fellow product manager, Christoph Morgan, senior director of product management, SAP HANA Predictive and Machine Learning. So our call will be 60 minutes long, and the recording will be available under the exact link you're joining us today. So one last thing before I hand it over to our speakers, make sure to use our Q&A tool. So right next to the video in YouTube, you see the chat window. Just post all your questions in there, and we're hopefully having enough time at the end of our call to answer all your questions, either in a written format in the chat or live in a spoken format. So with this, Christoph, I don't want to steal any more time from you. I'm handing it over.
Thank you very much, Susan, for the nice introduction, and also warm welcome from my side to our HANA Machine Learning Community Challenge. I'm really excited. We have been able to put this together with our machine learning experts from the field, who also have put together the challenge itself. And yeah, basically, as you already kind of outlined what we want to do in the next couple of minutes, quickly, I will introduce the HANA ML capabilities and overview the topic very briefly. Then Yannick will give you a demo overview on how to make use of the HANA machine learning capabilities. And Yannick and Sarah will then describe the challenge itself, the topic, which is the key use case for our challenge. And also Andreas will then kind of outline how we organize the overall challenge from a process perspective, when we meet, how we can interact, and yeah, how you can get access to the HANA Cloud challenge. Also, here's some pictures of all of us, plus the regional experts, which will be joining our open office calls regularly in the different regions. We'll also come to them and introduce them as well. So HANA Machine Learning is one of the key capabilities of the HANA Cloud or the HANA database in general, along with other advanced processing capabilities like spatial, graph, or storing data in the JSON document store. Some of the extended key capabilities which make HANA, let's say, a unique and rich multi-model database. And you can build your applications on BTP, on SAP HANA Cloud, for example, and directly infuse them with those advanced capabilities without the need to add another spatial application server or machine learning, let's say, infrastructure. It's all part of HANA Cloud in the first place, and that's why it makes it so attractive to apply machine learning scenarios directly with SAP HANA. We will also showcase our native client interfaces for data scientists in R and Python. So in case you don't know them yet, we will showcase them to you. We have two key AI function libraries embedded in HANA Cloud. The first one is the automated predictive library, which targets the classic machine learning scenarios like classification, regression, and time series forecasting, some others. And the key value of the automated predictive library is that there's a simple set of functions which everybody can use, non-data scientists, developers, administrators of a HANA system can really use, because the engine automates the complete step from accessing my data, selecting the best variables, data preparation, maybe encoding even of distinct columns, missing value handling, all that, and comes up with the best possible model. That's why it's very, very popular AI function library, because it provides you with a high productivity and fast time to value to kind of come up with a really, really good machine learning model in the first place. Our second library, more for the experts, is the predictive analysis library. It provides algorithms for the same or similar scenarios like the automated predictive library, but those are kind of distinct algorithms the experts can choose from, like, for example, gradient boosting, classification, or profit time series forecasting. So it provides trending algorithm along with standard and classic algorithm in those distinct domains, plus adding expert support capabilities like segmented forecasting invocation, explainability for model interpretability, or hyperscaler, not hyperscaler, hyperparameter model selection and capabilities like that. It's also driven by the SQL interface as well as the R and Python machine learning clients. And here you see that there's a rich set of functions and algorithms available with the predictive analysis library. It is distinguished a little bit between the on-premise SAP HANA and the SAP HANA Cloud. Here in our challenge, we are sharing a HANA Cloud instance, which has all the algorithms you see here on the slide available, which you can choose and make use of as part of the challenge. Everything bluish and black is also available within your HANA on-premise installation. So a rich set, and maybe Swiss Army knife with all kinds of algorithms. And the best is, as a data scientist, and as you may already know those algorithms, you can leverage them via the Python and R machine learning clients, where you basically script in those languages, but you run in HANA as the interface generates SQL on the fly and execute with SAP HANA. Data is exposed via data frame concept, similar to what you may already know in Python and R, and then the methods are wrapped in Python or R, and you can then script with your Python Jupyter notebook like you would be scripting with scikit-learn, for example. Everything is really similar and close, so the experience and productivity for you or a data scientist is really good. So these are our machine learning clients, and I guess this was the brief intro from my side. And I think what's most interesting, how does it look like live? And I think Yannick is now giving you the demo experience.
Perfect, thank you, Chris. So let me share my screen, and before we jump into the tool and my Python environment, I want to first show you a small architecture of the demo and what we will see in the next couple of minutes. So I will be working from my local Jupyter Lab environment, but you can of course also use other Python environments to leverage our HANA machine learning capabilities. And what I will do first is install the HANA ML package, which will contain the functionalities Christoph introduced. And I will then be able to use them from my local Python environment without moving the data into my local environment. So I can stay here in my Python environment, but still use the functionalities in HANA, and the data can stay where it is. So really, we brought the algorithms to the data. And with these functionalities, I will then show you how I can predict a quality of a production in my demo.
Yannick?
And yeah.
I cannot see your screen, and Susan also cannot yet see your screen. Not sure if that's a general issue. Maybe you can reshare again.
Oh, sorry about that.
No problem.
Yeah, it's
I mean, this is live. It says
maybe somebody can take over the sharing, and then I'll restart again because my whole Zoom is kind of frozen. Sorry about that.
No problem. Maybe I can. Andreas, do you want to go ahead with kind of your part? Are you ready? Then we come back to the demo once Yannick's back.
I was hoping to talk over the slides that Yannick is presenting. So yeah, but now we can see it. It's working now, Yannick.
Yeah, can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can. Okay.
Okay, sorry about that. Some technical problems. Yeah, so I hope you can see now my architecture. So to maybe summarize it, I'll stay in my local Jupyter environment, my local Python environment. You can of course also use other Python environment to install the HANA ML package. From there, you can leverage then these functionalities in HANA Cloud. And I would say let's take a look at the concrete example. And you will of course also find the code I'm about to share in a blog post we published in a GitHub repository. So if you want to follow the demo later through the blog post, that is of course also possible. Okay. So I hope you can see now my local Jupyter environment. And as said, the first thing you have to install is the HANA ML package, which leverages the functionalities Christoph introduced. Through this package, I'm now able to use the predictive analysis library and automated predictive library and connect to my HANA Cloud system. So I installed it and I'll then import it. And now, of course, the next step is to actually connect to my HANA system. And you have different options to do this. So for the challenge, you might have already tested the connection from your Python environment with one of the scripts in the Git repository. You're able to copy the credentials into the fields and then, of course, test the connection. But of course, you can also hide your credentials and don't have them visible in your cell as script. And for this, I've added a security key, which is also described in the blog post, which contains my credentials. And now I'm able to connect to my HANA Cloud system through this security key. And this connection variable here will then be very important for me to create the HANA data frames and to, of course, then save my results in my HANA Cloud later on. And now there are two options. So the first scenario could be that the data is currently locally here on my laptop, and I want to upload it into my HANA Cloud system. So for this demo, I've prepared some data, which is, of course, not the challenge. We didn't want to make it that simple. And I've then transformed this data a little bit, added an ID, and then I'm pushing it now directly into my HANA Cloud system, into my schema. And you would be able to do this as well. You can take the data from the challenge, load it locally, and then push it into the HANA Cloud system Christoph, for example, is providing to you. Then later on, the data is, of course, already lying in your HANA Cloud system, and you don't always want to push it into HANA every single time when you create the HANA data frame. And of course, in reality, often the data is already in your backend system and is hopefully not only locally on your laptop. And I can create this HANA data frame also in a couple of different ways without moving the data into my local environment. And one option you see here in the script. So remember, I created this connection variable, and I now have the option to execute an SQL statement, very simple here, which just points to the data in my schema in my HANA Cloud. And with this, I've now created a HANA data frame with which I can now work. I can do data understanding, I can do data preparation, and I can also leverage the machine learning capabilities without moving this data into my local environment. So it's kind of like an arrow pointing to the data in my HANA Cloud system. Okay, so this is prepared. So let's take a look at some data preparation or data understanding steps. So for example, if you first have to clean your data before you actually can do machine learning. And for this, you have, of course, a couple of functions already available here to you through the HANA ML package. For example, the variable quality, which I actually want to predict, is in the wrong format. And I can quickly change it into a character format so that the algorithms automatically detect that it's probably a classification, what it's supposed to do. And of course, I can do complexer data preparation steps here as well. I could execute, of course, also SQL scripts to clean the data. I can also visualize the data. So here I'm doing a small description of the data, and then I'm only collecting the actual report of this describe method. So the heavy lifting stays in HANA, and I'm only collecting small samples of the data, like this describe report, into my local environment to visualize it. Okay, now, of course, in reality, data understanding and data preparation takes quite a lot of time, but I would like to move on now to the machine learning part, because I think it's very powerful, and I can work just like I'm used to with also open source package like scikit-learn or other packages to now split the data into a training and a testing set before I train my machine learning algorithm. And this is done through this cell. So through this command, I'm now splitting the data into 80% training set, and 20% of the data I will reserve for testing my trained machine learning model. I can then control the size of my training and testing set, and then I can proceed to do machine learning. And as Christoph mentioned, there are a lot of options available now for you to solve the challenge. And I will choose one possibility, which is an algorithm in the predictive analysis library. And I'm a big fan of the random forest, which is a great method to predict if a transaction, if a created product will be of good quality or bad quality. And for this, I'm now using the random forest classifier here in the predictive analysis library. And I first want to train this model with a lot of trees. So to see kind of how does the error in my algorithm converge. And I can optimize this algorithm here just like I'm used to in the open source world. So I can now go into more hyperparameter tuning, and it's really just like if I would be optimizing an algorithm from scikit-learn. When I've trained the model, I can then create prediction with it, predict if the product will be of good or bad quality. I can look at the score and the confidence, how sure is the algorithm if the product will be of good or bad quality. I can further evaluate it. So I can, for example, of course, look at the confusion matrix. How good is the algorithm in its decision making? This one here is in sample, but I can, of course, also apply it to the testing data, which I've kind of reserved on the side, and look at the confusion matrix out of sample to control if my machine learning model is actually of good quality. And yeah, of course, then many more capabilities to actually evaluate the model. Of course, random forest is also a really amazing algorithm, because I don't only have the prediction, but I also have kind of more insights, which variables were of importance, which variables were not as important, to predict if a product will be of good or bad quality. So I also generate not only the predictions, but really further insights for the business. And yeah, I kind of want to scroll through here. So I'm now doing a lot of hyperparameter tuning here. And in the end, I of course have one final model, which I'm happy with, which I then want to, of course, also save in my HANA Cloud and maybe use it at a later time again. And for this, I'm now also able to create a model storage directly in my HANA. And in there, I can then save my final machine learning model, which I've optimized, and then later on, of course, always load it and use it for predictions. And for example, in here, you see I've already created 2 random forest models, which I can then further use. Now, this was just one example how to leverage the machine learning capabilities in HANA Cloud. And there are, of course, many more. And for you, of course, it is important then when you start with it, how do you find the documentation, how to actually tune such an algorithm. And for this, I want to quickly show you the link to the documentation. There it is. So under the link, you will then find, of course, a lot of more examples you can try. And in here, you will also have the documentation, how you actually tune these algorithms, and you find a lot more possibilities there as well. And with that, I would say we're now ready to look at the actual challenge, which you will have to solve in this ML community challenge. So Sarah, can you tell us a little bit more about the actual challenge?
Sure, we prepared a lot of fun things for you. And maybe let's start with the concept that we prepared for you for our community challenge. So the idea is that we have some part experimental learning, especially for you. So Yannick, when we move to the next slide.
Yeah, seems to have problems again.
No worries. Just give it a few seconds.
So maybe you can take over the screen sharing. Thank you.
There we go. Yes, we prepared a HANA Cloud system for you, so you should all have access to that. If you don't, it's also described in the blog post, in the kickoff blog post, how you can get access to it. Then we have a nice challenge for you. I will give you a few more insights about that one later on. And as Yannick already mentioned, we have some expert content. Yeah, you have a lot of GitHub links. You also have some hands-on tutorials that might help you doing the challenge. And in case you get stuck, we are, of course, always there for you. So we have some open office hours twice a week. So this is, again, also a Zoom call, which is not recorded, not live on YouTube. Yeah, so you can join and ask us all the questions that you want, and that might help you solve the challenge. In case you don't want to wait for our open office hours or something comes up, during these days, you can also ask questions at any time at the SAP community. There you can also see the kickoff blog post, and then you can just write your questions as a comment to this blog post. Yeah, we will be monitoring that, and then we also try to help you with this in the SAP community. Yeah, the idea is that we all work and learn together. Yeah, so feel free to work in teams if you want. If you want to participate alone, that's also fine. But also we want you to share your experience in our final call, where you also can present your results. Yeah, that you share that also with all the other participants. Yeah, so the idea is that everyone can really improve their skills. We all can learn something during this challenge, and we can learn as much as we can also from each other. I already mentioned we also have a final call where you can all present your results. You can, you don't have to, but we would highly appreciate it. If you prefer not to present it during a call, you can also write a blog post about it and post it on the SAP Community Challenge. So it's up to you what you want. And then we have our experts who then will decide who wins the hackathon. Yeah, we also have some nice prizes for you. So I would say give it your best shot. Yeah, do your very best during your our challenge, and then try to win the hackathon. Yeah, let's maybe talk a little bit more about the challenge. Here's our evaluation criteria. Like I said, you have a challenge, so you have one use case that you should solve with the SAP HANA Machine Learning, as Yannick presented to you. It's up to you if you want to use the automated predictive library or the predictive analysis library, but you should definitely use the things which are available on the HANA Cloud. And we are also looking for an appealing presentation. So give it a clear message, and also think about for whom are you building this. Yes, so you should also think about the business context. Maybe you have a persona in mind for whom you're building this, and then give it a clear message. Make it a really nice presentation. And we are not just looking for the highest accuracy, precision, or recall. Of course, this is also important, but we are also looking for the best and catchy story. Yeah, so just make it a nice and fun presentation, and I think you're good to go. Okay, then on the next slide, we have all the details about our challenge. Yeah, here we go. So it's all about employee churn. Yeah, Susan wrote this quite provocantly with I quit. Yeah, we thought, during the times where everyone is looking for the best talents, this is really important use case to really, retain, your most skilled people, make them happy so that they stay with you as long as they can. So this is then what it's all about. Yeah, you should predict which employees will be leaving the company within the next 12 months. Yeah, and I think this is a highly interesting case, because when I talk to managers, sometimes they think when someone has a new haircut, then that might be the highest indication. But we think the data can do better. Yeah, so that's why we prepared a lot of different data, different factors for you, influencing factors, so you can choose the one which really have an influence. Yeah, I hope you don't mind, but having a new haircut or not is not included in the data set, because we found that it's not so relevant. Yeah. So let's have a bit more of a look on the data, Christoph. And maybe you can press on the play button so we can see that. So this is actually the data that we prepared for you. Yeah, you see you have a lot of different influencing factors that you can see here. It's basically everything. So it's the age, it's the gender, so the classical master data that we know about our employees, but also the things here. Is it a full-time employee or not? Did they change already within the company? So on which functional area did they work before? In which country did they work before? How long have they been with the formal position? Was it an external hire or something? And also when they changed the position, was it an intra-functional move or not? So basically everything we could think of that really has an influence. So it's the typical data that you also have in your HR system. You can find the data here in this link via a GitHub repository, and there's also a PDF attached that gives you a really detailed description of each of the fields. Yeah, so that you can see what is there in each field and what does each of these entries mean. In case you have some questions about that, you can, of course, again, come back to us. As you can see here on the right, the flight risk. This is from the historic data. Yeah, so that you see who left the company actually in the last 12 months. And this is what we will use to train it, or what you will use to train it, so you can then, of course, apply it to the new employees and see who is up next, yeah, who has a really high churn rate. And also, maybe you can also find some reasons why someone is leaving, which then could prevent. Yeah, so which could then be a good tip for our managers so they can do something about it so that they will stay with us. Okay, that's it from the challenge. Like I said, if you have any question, you can ask them now in the chat or also later on. I will hand over to Andreas to talk a bit more about the organization.
Yeah, super. Thank you, Sarah. So if we just stay on the slides, Christoph, if we just continue as we did, that'd be perfect. So it's just coming up. If you just go to the next slide, please. Yep. Super. Thanks so much. So I'm sure you're all keen to get started now. You heard about the machine learning in HANA Cloud. You've seen it. You heard about the challenge. So now to some practical details. How the next 3 weeks really, how it's going to continue. And today, at the time of presenting or recording, it is November the 28th. And you have now 3 weeks to work on this challenge to implement at the end of these 3 weeks to present your results, as Sarah has explained. So the first sort of contact with a few of participants already had last week, where we offered connectivity sessions for people to connect from the local Python environment to the HANA Cloud, which I understand has all been working very well so far. And as part of the support that we're providing, to help you, so during the implementation, we're providing these open office hours that we already mentioned. Where here we have these dates of these open office hours, together with a link where you find the exact hours. And due to the global nature of this challenge, we're offering different time slots. Here, the first line that you see at the bottom of the slide is for the European and Asia Pac time zone. And the second line further below is for the Americas, so that everybody has the chance to talk to someone during normal working hours, of course. And you will be supported by a global team of experts that we see on the next slide, Christoph, if you're so kind. Thanks. And it's here we have experts in North America, in South America, Farouk and Andres. We have experts in Asia Pacific, Raymond, but also the people based in Europe that are in the call at the moment. So we're not always available on all of the calls that we of course, but there's I hope enough options to get in touch and discuss. We're there to support. And then essentially the session breaks down in 5 major steps that we will see here. So first of all, you need to implement the prerequisites as already listed on the blocks that are provided. Essentially setting up your Python environment, installing this HANA ML library that allows you to connect to a HANA system. And then once you have this set up, you connect, you test that connection, that this is working well. And once you have the connectivity, you may want to get some practice. And here we provide tutorials with different data sets that give you guidance, that give you code to get started, to experiment. And once you feel sort of comfortable to try out your skills on this data set now on the churn scenario, this would be number 4. And most likely this is, of course, where you spend most of the time. And there's no right, there's no wrong in data science. There's a lot of going back and forth. It's very iterative. So you might experience that as well in this scenario. And eventually, we are looking extremely forward to what you're presenting, what you created. So this will be very nice end at the end of the next 3 weeks. And finally, a little bit more detail on the next slide. Thank you, Christoph. Where it's important to point out that the free trials that you always have access to with HANA Cloud and Data Warehouse Cloud, that these are not sufficient to use the machine learning. This is simply not enabled in the free trials. They exist in the full product, and some participants already have, for example, their own Data Warehouse Cloud system that they're using. So be sure to use the credentials that we're providing specifically now for this community challenge if you don't have your own system. Many of you have already received these. You just need to reach out by email so that we can respond with the log-on credentials. If you haven't received them yet, here is the email address. Please send us a note, and very quickly in return, of course, you get these credentials. And on that slide, we're also listing again the blog with the exact hours for these sessions that we're providing where you can get in touch. Sometimes it's easier to talk, and we hope, even if possible, if needed, we can do little breakout sessions that we can discuss in one-to-one, maybe looking at your individual systems. But it's also absolutely fine, as you prefer, to post a question, for example, here on the thread that's also listed. Then anybody can sort of see a question, we can respond for everyone to see, so that everybody benefits from the discussions that are going on. So the choice is completely down to you how you'd like to get in touch. With that, we explained the challenge, and so many of you are ready to go. And I hand it back to Susan, and maybe you've already had some questions in the Q&A.
Perfect. So thank you, Andreas. And you're exactly right. There is a lot going on in our Q&A tool. So Christoph was already really busy answering some of these questions, but I think it's good to also have the answers on the talk track as well. So first question we should maybe answer is, are we allowed to use local libraries for fitting? So, yeah.
Maybe I can take that, or do you want to go, Andreas?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that for sure. So basically it's a HANA machine learning challenge. So we might be a little biased towards using the engines now in HANA Cloud, obviously. So this is really the purpose. So I think for that challenge, though, clearly it would be nice to use the engines provided inside HANA Cloud itself.
Perfect. Yeah. So the next question, closely related to the first one, is, can I also use Skykibler in pipelines?
Yeah, I think that would be the same answer.
Yes. So you hear we're a little biased towards HANA Cloud. So this is a HANA Cloud challenge, and we would really appreciate if you could also use HANA Cloud to solve our challenge. So next question in the Q&A tool I'm just scanning is, can you share the notebook from the demo? So Yannick, this one would go to you, I guess.
Of course, yeah. So we'll have a blog post for the demo we showed, and also the notebook is available in a GitHub repository, which we will share. Yeah.
Perfect. Yes. So for your information, the GitHub repository is also already posted to the chat. So you can just pick the link out of our YouTube chat and open it up. So you also get our repository that was used for the demo. Let me scan. So we're having one other question, or there are also coming more questions in, I can see. It is regarding the data set. So Ines is asking, is this anonymized real-like data where it is possible to get some real insights or random data? And I remember we talked a lot about the data set. So maybe Yannick, you want to comment on this one?
Yeah, so of course, for this community challenge, we couldn't give out real data, especially for such employee churn use cases. So it's simulated data, but of course we made sure to make it quite tricky, and that it's also very close to the reality of such a use case.
Perfect. So please, for everyone who's still with us in the call, if your question is answered and you're still having like open points, please let us know, and we're happy to once again answer questions if there are still things open. So next question, we will definitely post the link for Yannick's blog in the chat in just a second. And then there is one last open question from Sergey. There is no ranking submission with unseen data. Is that correct?
I'll take that. Yeah, so that is correct. Yes, because here the data that we're working with, as Yannick explained, it's not realistic data. Well, it's realistic, but not real data, and for that reason, we thought it's very tricky, to then test the model on a true holdout sample. So we are probably more looking for creativity in the way you approach it.
Perfect. So thank you, Andreas. Sergey, let us know if this answers your question, but I think this was a really crisp and precise answer. So we should be good here. Are there any other questions open? I hope I have not overlooked them in the chat, as this one is really crowded. So last call for any questions. Okay, so it looks a little quieter now, but yes, perfect. So Sergey's question was answered. So I think we can close it off a little earlier. That was a great presentation. Thank you so much for sharing your challenge. And I think I can speak for the whole team. We are really, really excited to kick the challenge finally off and to see a lot of great results. Oh, sorry, I just got one question in the chat. So let's come back to answering this one. So Enrique is asking, what is preferable to use SAC or HANA Cloud for doing predictive analytics?
For this one, it depends basically on your skills. So with SAP Analytics Cloud, actually uses the same mathematics in the background as the automated predictive library. So if you're more of a business user and you're not so familiar with, like Yannick showed you, Python coding or R coding, then you feel probably more comfortable with using SAP Analytics Cloud, because there in the function which is called Smart Predict, you can just with a few clicks also use the automated predictive library without any code. But of course, you're a bit limited in SAP Analytics Cloud. You could just use the automated predictive library. If you want to have more flexibility, use different algorithms like Yannick showed you around in Forest, then you would probably use the predictive analysis library. And then you definitely need to go to the HANA Machine Learning part in SAP HANA Cloud. I hope that helps you.
Perfect. So thank you, Sarah, for answering this. And I think this was a really comprehensive summary. So let me close it off once again. Thanks for joining us today. We're excited to see a lot of challenge submissions. And as Andreas broadly explained, we're here for you. So if you're running into any issues, problems, troubles, whatever, please feel free to reach out, contact us, join us for the open office hours, comment on our blog posts. We really want to tackle the challenge together with you. Yeah, so thanks, and talk to you maybe in one of our open office hours. Bye-bye.
Bye.